Hey everybody, today a story from a D&D adventure where a monkey defeated a false hydra using poop. Hey everybody, this is the Techno Funk Boy, and my name is Paul, and I've got another kind of a war story, a DragonTale for you today, and this actually happened when recording one of the actual play podcasts I'm on, Dice and Dreary. And so this one actually has the advantage of you being able to actually listen to the whole adventure. So if you would you rather just jump there, you're not going to hurt my feelings. The adventure took place in December of 2020 last year, and into January, and it was called Dice and Cheery. And so if you just look for that on the Dice and Dreary feed, then you're gonna find the whole adventure, and it was a lot of fun. This was actually the only time so far that I have been able to DM on Dice and Dreary. So like I DM on most of my other games, but this one I'm a player, and after a lot of episodes as a player and having a lot of fun, it's that Jeff, the DM, gave me the reins just this once, and it turned out really, really cool. So Dice and Dreary is a Curse of Strahd podcast, but we do like to do special Christmas adventures, kind of Christmas themed adventures. Mostly, they're themed with snow, but this is one where, like the prior year, the characters were actually in a good place to have this adventure, but this last time they weren't at all in a good place to have a side adventure. And so it was we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, and I pitched, it's like, well, I've heard of this really cool monster, and I would love to run an adventure with it. And we don't need the main characters. We can take some of the big NPCs from Curse of Strahd and like make it so they're the heroes, some of the well-known people. And so the adventure I'd picked out was a false hydra, and so some of you know what that is already. I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but this is a homebrew monster. I'll put the link in the description. It was from Goblin Punch. It is terrifying monster, and so I thought this would really work well with this horror atmosphere. And so the three players with me took NPCs from the game. So we had Danica Mardukov, who is one of the owners of the inn in Vallaki. Her father-in-law, Davian. And we picked Davian especially because when the adventure ran across him, Jeff did such a great job voicing him that I told him, it's like, look, I want you to be Davian. Davian was really, really cool. And then my possibly everybody's personal favorite NPC, Blinsky. And Blinsky did have Piccolo, the monkey, with him. That's important. Obviously, the name of this is a monkey saving the day. So obviously that's going to be important as we go. And so the adventure is taking place during one of the many festivals that Vallaki has, but this is kind of the midwinter Christmassy festival, and that was kind of setting the mood for it. But the characters quickly figure out that some things are amiss, but they can't put their finger quite on what it is, and this brings in the false hydra. Now, if you have any inkling to play a false hydra game, let yourself not be spoiled here. It's one of those monsters that, it's hard to run across if you don't know what it is, because it became such a famous homebrew game. But if you know, if you're planning, especially if you're planning, it's like, hey, you know, we're gonna do a False Hydra game next week. Don't watch that. Don't watch this. But the thing with the False Hydra is that these are, and I won't go into you know, how it grows and stuff, but once it establishes itself in a place, it becomes almost impossible to get rid of. And the reason is because it as it grows will grow multiple heads, and one head is always singing. And this song is kind of like a charm spell that causes everyone who hears it to just ignore the False Hydra and everything it does. And so it can walk right in front of you, but your mind will not see it. It can break, you know, it could break a wall of a building and your mind won't register it. If it eats someone, you'll just forget that that person ever existed. And so, like, people who have been single, like, man will wake up in the morning and find women's clothes in his closet and be confused because he thinks he has always been single, but he hasn't been, you know. And eventually they'll just kind of explain it away in their mind. It's like, oh yeah, my sister came and visited a few months ago. She forgot her stuff. I'll give it back to her later, you know. And so you could leave town and just realize what's happened, but when you come back to town, you'll forget. And so by the time it starts growing multiple heads, it's nearly impossible to get rid of. But in this adventure, our brave adventurers kind of, you know, we're putting things together and you know, putting all the clues together, and went outside of town to make a plan as to what to do, is to figure out what was happening and figure out how to get back into town without it, you know, while you know, being able to see it. And they did have some magical providence earlier in the game that let them maintain some memory that a lot of people couldn't, which was kind of the only way this game was going to work. Otherwise it was going to be, look, a weird thing happened, never mind, I forgot it, going back to washing the dishes. But so they decided that they were gonna take this thing out, and they came back into town and they were using mirrors because they figured out that, you know, the whole blind spot thing doesn't work very well with mirrors, and they could kind of track it that way and get an idea of exactly what was happening. So they came back in town and they're looking through these mirrors and they're realizing their town has been utterly destroyed by this thing and no one knows it. You know, there's like you know, holes in the ground because this thing can you know, burrow, and there's holes in the ground and people are tripping over it without realizing there's a hole there. And so they come across it, and then they start the battle. Now, another thing, we were waiting to start the stream. We had been originally streamed this, and then we put it in podcast form. We were starting to stream, and I had read, you know, in the stats that this thing could only be healed with magic weapons, and I knew that Piccolo would throw poo at it, because if you're controlling Piccolo, if you're like playing Blinsky and you're controlling Piccolo in battle, tell me you're not throwing poo, right? Because that's obvious. Yeah, I mean, that's what you do. And we started brainstorming, and this was on night one. You know, I had no idea where things were going to go. I just wanted to, we kind of wanted to say, look, if Piccolo throws poop, it's a magical attack. And in the rationale that we came up with was that Piccolo has been eating primarily good berries, which is magically conjured. It's, you know, it's I think several classes have this. It's, you know, it's just a way to create food, and you eat one and it fills you for the whole day, and gives you a hit point. And so we're thinking that, you know, this is going to be, you know, with being around powerful NPCs like Rictavio, like Blinsky in the game, this is probably the easiest way to give a monkey, fruits and berries and stuff in a land that doesn't really have a lot of food supply. And therefore, considering that all the food he's eating is magical, his poop would be too. This is what we think about right before streams. Listen to Dyson Dreary. It's a lot of fun. So I did that specifically because I was thinking, okay, Piccolo's going to chuck some poop, and we're going to get like a couple of hit points off this thing, because of that. Well, the battle starts. This false Hydra has 3 heads, and they take out one of the heads, and so they're down to 2. Now, one of the heads is singing, while the other head is attacking. Now, the one head is singing because they're in the middle of the street. Like, there are people like walking by, heading to work, as this battle is going on right beside them. They don't hear it. They don't see it. They have no idea that it's happening. And the false Hydra doesn't want to give itself, away with surrounded by all these people. So it's continuing to sing during this whole thing. And at one point it comes up and it attacks Blinsky. Now Blinsky decides that it's time, and that they're right up close, and that they needed to strike. And we had established earlier in the game that animals can actually see this thing. They're not fooled by the song. They don't know what it is or anything, and they had, they did some speak with animals early on, and they got a rough idea of what they were facing, but they're just, guys, it's just it's this gross thing with 3 heads. But Blinsky cast a courage spell on Piccolo to get him all riled up, and told him to attack, and specifically said that, I want Piccolo to throw poop in the monster's mouth. Now, as a DM, this is something I want to happen, because I want to see it, but I'm still going to make this hard. I don't want to just say, yeah, that works. So you still have to have the roll. And I'm hoping it happens. And I do think that when we're playing D&D, that sometimes the fates want to see something happen just as much as we do. And the fates came through for us this time, and he rolled a natural 20. And the poop went into the singing mouth. Now, this is the mouth that is casting the spell on everyone, remember. And so, as soon as that poop goes in, the song stops and the spell is broken. And all of a sudden, all the people who are surrounding them that were just going about their day, it was as if they were just transported to a different place, where they were just walking down I'm just knocking my mic over all the time. Sorry about that. They're minding their own business. They're walking to work. It was a pleasant day. It was a cool winter day. Nice snow on the ground. All of a sudden, they're in a ruined city, and there is a raging battle right beside them. And the spell is just completely broken at that point. And this did turn out to be just the pivotal moment in the battle that really pushed the battle in the favor of our heroes in here, and they were fairly quickly at that point able to dispatch of the beast. So I was absolutely thrilled to have been able to DM this particular adventure, and I had an absolute ton of fun with it. And as I say, it's on the Dyson Dreary podcast feed. I'd hope that you would listen to that anyways. It's a really, really good podcast, and a lot of like my music is on it, and Jeff's production work is top notch on it, and this particular adventure was a lot of fun. So I appreciate you tuning in. For subscribers to the channel, I was for a few weeks there finishing up my latest album. It is in the link below. Which is why there weren't a lot of updates, but I'm now back. I did think that we ended up still getting, I got some videos out, but just not at the pace that I want to, but back now. And so please do subscribe. Dragonlance, more Dragonlance is up next. And, I'm really excited, for anybody new. Please do hit the subscribe button below. It helps me out a lot. Throw your comments down below. I do videos going through like the old Dragonlance modules a lot, some other D&D related stuff, as well as video game music reactions that, are getting me a lot of comments and a lot of suggestions, and I'm having a blast with those. And so we have a lot more stuff coming up, so please do hit the subscribe button, and we will catch you next time. Appreciate it.